Hey everyone, so this is me again, Faith Afolabi, founder of Market Consult and a host for Conversations with Humans in Development, which we are on presently. And today is the 6th day to Christmas. Yeah, so it's been exciting listening to different founders of the organization sharing their experiences on how they started their career in non-for-profit. So if you're watching, go get your friends, go get your family members, come sit down, relax. It's Christmas, and we just want to inform you, educate you, and entertain you, basically. We'll go on a very short break, and when we get back, we'll meet our guests. Stay tuned. All right, everyone, welcome back from that short break, and my name is Faith Afolabi, founder for Market Consult, and your host. So today we have another guest, someone I've known over a decade now, and she actually helped me to start my journey in non-for-profit. I started volunteering, like I told some of us a few days ago. If you watched some clips, I talked about the importance of volunteering and also interning to help you get started in your career. So I started working in Journalists Against AIDS as a volunteer, and it provided me the opportunity to build basic skills that I need to make certain decisions in my career. And today you'll be meeting the Executive Director of Journalists Against AIDS Nigeria. Laide, can you say hello to everyone?
Hello everyone, good afternoon and Merry Christmas. Glad to be here on this platform with you, Faith.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming. Okay, so guys, I'm going to read a brief bio of Laide. She has accomplished so much in the NGO space in terms of journalism and working with CSO. So Laide is Executive Director of Journalists Against AIDS Nigeria, a media-based non-governmental organization which seeks to contribute to prevention, care, and control of HIV/AIDS, tuberculosis, and address sexual and reproductive health and rights challenges in Nigeria. And she has served in various capacities in JAAIDS and several other advocacy-based coalitions in promoting HIV, AIDS, and TB treatment literacy, capacity building for media and civil society groups, and policy monitoring on universal access to prevention, treatment, and care services. She has also, prior to joining JAAIDS, Laide worked as a health correspondent in Punch newspaper, a leading national newspaper in Nigeria, and she holds a master's degree in biochemistry from the University of Ibadan, Nigeria, and MBA from Lagos Business School of Pan-Atlantic University. And she also serves as the national coordinator of the Civil Society for Prevention of TB, and serves on the board of other not-for-profit organizations, including New HIV Vaccines, Microbicide Advocacy Society, Heartland Alliance Nigeria, and the International Council of AIDS Service Organization, ICASO. So that's a whole lot, and she will be sharing her experience on how she was able to gather experience in these organizations. If you're just joining us, stay tuned, and let's get to meet you. So Laide, would like to know what inspired you to start on this journey.
Wow, thank you again for having me. So unlike many people who may have had a dream or decided that I want to work in the NGO space, I didn't set out to work in the NGO space.
Wow.
My work, so I studied biochemistry and I had always wanted to be a researcher. And my first job was in teaching, and then after that I got a job in Punch newspapers, and I was working reporting health. And at that time, part of the issues that were trending in the news was about HIV, and within that space of time, there were all sorts of cure claimants who said, they had a cure for HIV. So I used to attend a lot of meetings and press conferences where HIV and AIDS will be discussed. And in one of the press briefings I attended, and it was the first time people living with HIV were coming together under the body called that we now know as NEP1, which is the Network of People Living with HIV. And at that time, prior to then, I was just reporting HIV as a disease. But when I attended that press conference, it was my first time meeting with people who were living openly with HIV. And I just felt like, wow, this is real. And this is something I needed to take more seriously. At that point in time, I was still working as a journalist. And within the space where I was working, there was another journalist who was already writing a whole lot of articles. In fact, he had a column on HIV and AIDS. His name was Omololu Falobi. And at that time, Omololu, he used to report a lot about HIV. And so I got interested in his work. And not too long after, Omololu told me, oh, I'm leaving Punch. I'm going to set up an NGO. And I was like, okay, so what are you going to be doing in that NGO and all of that? He said, oh, we were going to be building capacity of journalists on reporting HIV. And I said, well, good for you. And over time, I also began to write articles for this NGO because they had a website. At that time, it was already launched as Journalists Against AIDS. They had a website, and they had a platform called the Nigeria AIDS E-Forum, where a lot of stakeholders used to discuss about HIV. And so I also used to contribute stories to that platform. At some point in time, as the organization grew, they required program officers, and Omololu had invited me and said, oh, we have this position that is open. If you're interested, you could apply. And so I applied, and that was my first experience with working in an NGO, So it was a different experience for me because at that point, I'd never had experience working in an NGO. Yes, I had attended, events where NGOs had invited us to come and cover their events and report about their events. But working with an NGO was a totally different ballgame. And I realized that as I did it, I loved it. I particularly loved, meeting people living with HIV. And for me, the issue that was utmost of concern for me is the issues of equity. The fact that many of the people living with HIV at that time did not have access to treatment, and the few who had access to treatment had to pay through their noses to be able to access that treatment. So that was an issue of interest for me. And so when I joined JAAIDS, it was an opportunity to explore that further. So that's how I joined, and like they say, the rest is history.
Yes, it's been amazing. I remember back then, I actually started working with JAAIDS as well, and I remember you took me for a meeting and you didn't tell me exactly what it was. And when I got there, I realized there were persons living with HIV. I'm like, God, what am I doing here? But that experience opened my eyes to so many other things, and I realized that it was an issue. I didn't even know what it was, but then as I began to read, I became more aware and the issues that were faced, and I was opportune to travel for a conference on treatment, actually organized by Treatment Action Campaign back then in South Africa. And the journey has been on, and even though I am not into health, but it gave me the opportunity to see other opportunities within this space. Okay, so I would like to know, so if you weren't going to be doing this, what would you have been doing?
Interesting question. I think I would have been more into research, and I still do that by the side, So over the course of the work I've done, I've been involved with a whole lot of advocacy, building capacity of civil society, and as the response to HIV has evolved, part of the requirement now, or part of the gaps that we're seeing, is that oftentimes people are not seeing the value that civil society has brought to the table. And it's important that we begin to document that and tell our own stories as civil society. So part of my areas of interest has been research over time. Like I said, if I wasn't into HIV, I probably would be a researcher working in some sort of research institute. So for me, doing research, being able to see, okay, this is the value add of civil society, holding conversations with people, understanding what the gaps are, what are the challenges, what the recommendations for improving on interventions are. Those are the areas that I have been interested in over time. And working within the civil society space and meeting with different people, different stakeholders has also broadened my knowledge of these issues.
All right, guys, so if you're just joining us, this is the Margaret Consult Chat, 6 days to Christmas. We want you to sit back, relax, and we'll be back after this short message. All right, guys, so welcome back from that short break, and we've been speaking with me and Olayide Akanni, the Executive Director of Journalists Against AIDS, and she's been sharing her experience of how she started her career in non-for-profits. Okay, so this is Christmas. We don't just want to all talk. We want to have some fun in here. So I'm going to be asking Olayide some questions, and she'll be telling us yes or no. So let's go. Are you ready? All right.
Ready.
So the first one, have you stood in a line overnight before?
No.
So I have been told I snore. Have you ever been told you snore?
Nope.
Okay.
But I have told someone that they snore, and the person didn't find it funny.
Oh my God. Have you broken any bones before?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. Can you roll your tongue like this?
Did I try?
Okay. Have you been to a concert before? A music concert like Madonna?
Yes. A friend had dragged me to the concert and like, oh, this is really great. He was outside the country anyway. So we're like, oh, she's really cool. I'm like, okay. So that was it.
Okay, have you been to a foreign country before?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Have you dressed up in a medieval costume before?
No way. No.
Okay. So have you volunteered to be a big sister before to someone?
I'm not sure I specifically told the person, okay, I'm volunteering to be your big sister, but I'm sure that in some way I have been
in a big sister,
maybe
to someone.
Yeah.
And the last one, have you ever swum before, like swimming?
I tried in my university days, and I think I abandoned it. Yeah.
Oh.
I actually started learning, and then I abandoned it.
Hey, thank you so much, Laide, for that. Good to know a bit more about you on the personal side. We'll get back to our questions. So, for example, someone is watching this video and they want to know how you were able to build the required skill to excel in your position in the non-profit sector, because you had said you were working in Punch, so I suppose you didn't have any form of training. So what are the things you did to build your capacity to be at the place where you are?
So I that the not-for-profit sector opens up for you is the space to learn. It provides a whole platform for learning, and for anybody who wants to build a career in that space, you really need to be willing to soak it in, to soak in the opportunities. The opportunities may not come pouring in as you expect, early on in the career, because sometimes, some people think, oh, you work in the not-for-profit, you must travel a lot, so it provides opportunities for travel. But I can tell you that my initial opportunities were really not funny. I remember there was an incident, and this was way back in 2001 or 2002. I had to go and organize some meetings with people living with HIV. It was a project we were running on access to treatment, and I needed to go to 4 cities. I'd never been to Anambra before, so I had to go to Anambra to organize a meeting. I needed to go to Benue, never been to Benue. I needed to go to Ibadan. Yes, I knew Ibadan because I grew up in Ibadan. And I needed to go to another city, I think in the north, it was Kano. So all the other 3 cities I had never been to before. So for Anambra, I had to, first of all, go to Enugu. And then I think from there, I had to go to another city, and I had what's called, at that time I had a mobile printer with me because I had to go to those cities, invite the stakeholders, so I had to go and physically drop the letters, print the letters. So I had a mobile printer with me and a laptop, so I was logging all of this stuff all around. And then in Anambra, I think I had to take a bike, and it was my first experience in that city. We had to navigate really rough terrain. I came off from that bike with the sole of my shoe burnt.
Oh
I
God.
didn't have spare shoes. And I'm like, is this what the NGOs all about? And I remember getting back to, after all of the trips to all of the cities, I remember and complaining to my boss then, later Olufalobi, and he said, yeah, you're doing well, you're learning the job. I was like, is this what the NGO sector is about? So I'm saying all of this to say that sometimes the experiences may not be all that rosy, and sometimes you get into spaces and you're thinking, so what is all this about? Sometimes you might be not interested because you feel, how does this add up? But I think that having an open mind and saying, okay, I may not know where this is going to be useful, but I need to learn. I need to be willing to open my mind and forget all the things that I feel I know and learn from other people. Because part of the role that you're going to play in the end may not be part of what is in your job description. There might be things that you may have to do that are not within your job description if you have been hired, for instance, as a program officer. But you need to learn that, it's a learning platform, and as you learn along the way, you grow. And as you utilize those spaces, you're able to improve in your capacity to deliver on whatever roles that you have to deliver. So it's a huge learning opportunity, and I think my message to a whole lot of people who are considering that space is never take the opportunities to learn for granted. Never trivialize them and say, why am I going to that meeting? Sometimes the connections you make in some of the meetings might be very useful down the line, or the input you make. Another thing that I will tell a whole lot of people is that, I also noticed that in many of my experiences within the sector in my early days, if I went to meetings, they would say, we need a rapporteur, and who's going to volunteer? Most times people don't want to volunteer to take notes, because they think, it's a whole lot of work. But I realized that, as I volunteered for those kinds of things, like taking notes and reporting and providing updates, it was also building and improving my documentation skills, which is a very important skill within the space. Because within the not-profit sector, in the NGO world, most times you say, if it's not documented, it's not done. You have to write reports to funders, you have to submit reports to stakeholders, and you need to be able to learn how to write those reports. And those kind of opportunities to write the notes or the minutes of the meeting that we attended were the learning platforms to improve in my skills of report writing, which is a very critical skill in the not-for-profit sector.
You've said a whole lot about having an open mind, about volunteering. It's something that people usually want to do. People want fast benefits. They want it now. But if you're willing to pay the price, the end has a lot of the end has a lot of opportunity for you. If you're just joining us and you're watching, our guests today have said a lot about paying the price at the beginning, and at the end you reap the benefits. So please don't give up. You might be someone, maybe you're just starting the journey in your organization. Be willing to learn, take up challenges. You never know where those skills will be required. Like I tell people, whatever skill you learn in your current place of work is what you take you to your next place of work. I've seen it happen over time, again in my journey and stuff. So you're a lady. People sometimes they'll say things that they needed, not able to take up some leadership role. So I want to find out if there are challenges you face as you climb the ladder and being an executive director in journalism against AIDS. If there were, how were you able to overcome those challenges? Then your final words for our audience.
Yeah, people say, maybe there are challenges for women, but in my own growth trajectory within the sector, I have found a lot of people who have encouraged me, who have challenged me, or who have opened doors for me. And so I would say I found a lot of challenges. I think, again, it's also about, people who you have in your circle and people who you look up to advise you or to give you guidance. So I have found it, I wouldn't say I've encountered a lot of challenges because of my gender, in being able to achieve whatever I have set out to achieve. I think it's important to surround yourself with people who encourage you, people who can give you advice and tell you, oh, this is the way to go about things, or why don't you explore this opportunity. It's also more important, so you can never outgrow that need to learn. So it's a continuous learning mentality, continuously opening yourself to being mentored in an area that you have interest and passion in. So I think it's about your own mindset and also the people that you connect with. People will open spaces for you, open doors for you. It's up for you. It's now once the ball is in your court, it's up for you to, take on that challenge and move on.
All right. So I would like to have your last words for someone watching and feeling bad. Okay, I'm not able to get that career. It's Christmas. How am I going to cope next year? What's your word for such a person?
I think that one of my words for such a person will be to spend this period reflecting. Yes, Christmas is often a time for, jollying around with family and friends and all that, but it's also a time to have reflections and think about, okay, what do I do well? What do I do well? What am I passionate about? What am I interested in? And the skills that I currently have, where are they best employed? Are there who I can, provide these skills for and in return get some experience? Are there things that I can begin to do online? Are there, it's important to understand, what are the skills that you have going for you, and also look out to how can I begin to support NGOs who are doing something that is similar to what I'm interested in doing, and given the times that we're in, a lot more organizations are holding webinars, are holding online programs that you can be a part of so that you can actually learn, what their work is about and how you can also take up that challenge when you want to. The other thing to do is, I think it's also important to start where you are. Yes, you might have a dream or a vision to reach 1 million people, with a particular service, or to be able to bring 1 million homeless people, under a particular shelter. But the question is, start with one person, start with two people, because the organizations that are huge NGOs that you see today started off small. So never despise the day of little beginnings. I think that's a very important thing to emphasize to everybody who is out there thinking, oh, what I'm doing here, nobody is seeing me. It's just like I'm winking in the dark. But don't be discouraged. Continue to do what you're doing, and also begin to leverage social media, because social media, people are leveraging social media to do a whole lot of things nowadays, and also take up courses that can also broaden your knowledge about the NGO space, the not-for-profit sector space. There are courses in social sector management that are going on, that you can actually learn from and benefit from, because that knowledge helps you to build more capacity to do things better. So I think those are just some tips that I would leave for people who are interested in growing in this space.
Thank you so much, Laide. So we've come to the end of today's edition. It's 6 days to Christmas. Guys, I'm sure you've been informed. You've heard from the horse's mouth, and I just wanted to go back home and use every single tips that she has mentioned, and I'm sure you will get to your destination. Be patient, be willing to take up tasks, learn, start small, and at the end, there is light at the end of the tunnel. So it's bye from me, and I want to say thank you, Laide. Thank you so much for coming. So please, guys, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on all our social media, and we'll be back tomorrow for the 5th day, the Christmas edition on having conversations with human development. So have a wonderful evening. Bye.